Good afternoon. We thank you so much for you all joining us. We believe that time is of the essence, and so we know that your time is very valuable, and we will not delay. We're ready to get started. We will begin with Brother Mark Johnson, who is the CLO legislation chair. And by the way, I'm Jameisha, the young adult representative of the CLO. Thank you again for joining us. Mr. Mark, are you ready to go?
I am. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, family, as our young adults would say. Looks like my picture is not available. I'm going to be working on that as I speak to you now. Actually, Jameisha, give me a moment, please.
Okay,
Let me get my virtual. Thank you. Thank you for waiting. Again, good afternoon, family. We're excited to be here today as we host what we call the AME Church 2024 General Conference Legislation Review. I am Brother Mark Johnson, the Connectional organization's legislation chair. And thank you, our co-host, the lovely Sister Jameisha Williams, the young adult representative of the Connectional Lay Organization. On behalf of the Connectional Lay Organization, President A. McKeedy, we welcome you here today. Our aim today is to help the AME Church, and particularly the delegates and the alternates to the 2024 General Conference, understand and appreciate the scores and scores of legislation before us. General Secretary, Chief Information Officer, Dr. Jeffrey Cooper, has shared with us 800-page plus packet to review. Thank you, Dr. Cooper. With less than 30 days to study 80% of these proposed bills, with less than 30 days, 80% of these proposed bills we're seeing for the very first time. Yes, delegates, we're making some very, very critical decisions for the future of AME Church. It is our responsibility as elected delegates to do our part to become knowledgeable and informed for ourselves. We hope these series of presentations will be helpful to you and to the General Conference. I believe we all are praying that we will be more efficient this General Conference in regards to passing legislation. This is the CLO's attempt to help us do just that. May God bless us in this endeavor. When we shared this idea with various clergy and lay and senior leadership, we often heard the reply that we are very ambitious, and we agree. But we are trusting in God and His Word that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. God bless our attempt. You will hear this statement later in our instructions for today, but allow me to preference the presentation today and say, the Connectional Lay Organization is proud to serve as your host coordinators today. However, we are being very careful in our presentation and want you to understand the selection and presentation of these bills is not a reflection of an endorsement from the CLO. Rather, it is an attempt to provide a platform to gain additional details of the proposed legislation and, when possible, to hear directly from the authors the intent of their proposed bill. Today is an example of our attempt to be neutral. Our focus today is retirement services. And of course, it is a hot topic for this General Conference. We gathered all of the retirement-related bills, invited the authors to speak to them. We will provide you with an opportunity to send your comments, questions, and suggestions to the author. We will share them and provide an opportunity to continue discussions after today. And finally, let's take note that we are a collection of delegates and alternates from across the connection, an ideal vetting session. We're sure the General Conference will take note of this today. Sister Jameisha?
Yes.
I'll move on. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Are we ready to give the instructions?
Yes, go ahead. Our general instructions are, our host will announce the bill and our host and our guest presenter. The author will take it from there with the title, noting the authors, the intent, rationale, and most importantly, how this bill will impact the church. The co-host may also ask questions of the authors as well. We will present their bills on the screen, and in some instances, the new or amended text will be highlighted. You may want to have your current discipline with you as a reference. We will allow 15 minutes for each bill, and that includes the author's presentation. Mr. Jameisha?
We encourage you to share your questions and comments via the chat section so that our technicians will be able to select and share a few live, as well as we would like to compile them and maybe share them with you after the meeting. Also, do take note that by utilizing the raise hand feature, participants who desire to speak will be acknowledged and prompted to unmute themselves. Once the speaker is concluding, they will be muted again. Given the volume of bills, our objective is to focus on specific topics for coverage in the upcoming weeks. Remember that this is a neutral space. An opportunity to is provided to gather additional information about the bills directly from the authors. While we did not specifically select bills or authors, such as those related to the retirement services, we have compiled all bills within the packet that pertain to a particular theme, like retirement. We also want to let you know that a poll will be launched after each presentation of the bill. So before we move on, a poll will be launched and just asking your opinion, whether you support the bill, yes or no, or if you're still considering. If you, again, have any questions, please direct them to the chat.
Thank you, Sister
Ready
Williams.
to get started?
All right, without further ado, I think
All right.
Yes is on board. Annuity retirement. Mandated meeting of Commission on Retirement Service in the interim of the General Board. Our special guest, Bishop Jeffrey Leith. Bishop, I believe you're muted. I think you're still muted,
Bishop.
It won't let me.
Oh, that is part of the rules.
Thank you. I got it now.
Okay.
Thank you. And Sister Jameisha and Brother Mark, I want to thank you and others for this opportunity. And dispensing with the usual protocol, I'll just get to the point because I think I can take less than 15 minutes and allow that time to be passed on to some other legislation.
Okay.
The intent of this bill is very, very simple. It really is mandating that when it comes to retirement services, that there must be a quarterly informing of the commission in terms of the finances and operations of the commission. The idea is you can't wait until an annual meeting to get a lot of information. There needs to be a steady monitoring of the department by the commission quarter by quarter. And so when you look at the actual text, it's really very short. The amended text basically just adds that the commission shall receive quarterly reports and it shall meet in a video virtual session not less than 3 additional times in the interim of the annual meeting of the general board. Again, not only should that commission be mandated to receive reports, but they should be mandated to meet. So there is no excuse for why nobody knew what was happening when there are reports that are supposed to be distributed, as well as a mandated meeting. And so I think that's pretty straightforward. But I'm available if there are questions to me or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop Lee. We as co-hosts have a question for you, and we're pretty much going to ask these questions of all the bills. Has this bill been shared or vetted? If so, please share with us, the audience, with whom was it shared?
This bill, I believe, was presented at the convo. And so there was an opportunity at convo for there to be discussion on this bill.
I do recall. Thank you very much. What kind of feedback have you had from the bill, positive or opposing?
Positive. I think most people thought that this was already happening. And even though recently that commission has met frequently, the fact is it's not mandated. And this basically creates a mandate for it to happen.
Thank you, sir. And finally, since the general board and its commissions has oversight of retirement services, are you aware of their response to your bill? Please share.
Not specifically, but I think that the general sentiment is in the general board that there needs to be closer watch in terms of the activity of this particular group. And I think that that's manifested by the response at the general board, both recently as well as last year, where there's a lot of concern on the part of the general board about what's going on in the commission. And the commission is receiving now this mandate that they must meet, they must receive reports. They all must receive reports in terms of that commission, not just a select subcommittee, but the entire commission needs to receive the reports so that not only is the general board informed, but also so that the districts and the constituents in the Episcopal districts might learn through the members of the general board what is happening.
Thank you. Sister Williams, are we ready to entertain questions?
Yes, we are. So our first question comes from Miss or Mrs. Joanne Thompson. How will it be established that the reports are given are accurate reports?
Well, the one thing that an audit is supposed to accomplish is it's supposed to verify statements. And, I think that the commission itself is going to have to establish policies and procedures. The chairperson, I think, as well as a select group of the commission, should be going to that office and looking at documents to verify that if it is, it is. And also to receive statements from Westpath or Symetra or any other vendor. So, but that's a question that the commission really would have to answer. This bill does not address that.
All right. And Theodore Thompson asks, what are the consequences of not meeting these requirements?
In a perfectly peaceful world, I think you politely bring it to the attention of the general board. And I think that the general board makes a demand for correction and reprimand. And I think somebody who has courage then begins the process of filing charges of maladministration, because this becomes a mandate really to the commission itself, as well as to the director. So if the director is not giving the reports, well, then that director gets charged. If the commission is not calling or the officers of the commission are not dispersing, not disseminating the information, then they become at fault. With anything, the consequences are who blows the whistle and who bells the cat.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bishop. Gwendolyn Parker Harris asks, how soon after the reports will anyone have the opportunity to rebut or question its contents?
Again, that's a technical kind of in-house commission question. If they are meeting quarterly, I think that the issue becomes, if you're not a fast reader and you don't get it in that meeting, by the next meeting, you get your question in. But the point is, you should have a report every quarter. So a problem theoretically should not persist for longer than 6 months.
Very true. Okay. All right. We have no more currently. And
Are
we
going to do the poll now, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we will be launching our poll since we have a little time. Oh, one more. What are the qualifications for those serving?
You know, I think there should be a separate bill, and I need to look in the packet. But if I had my personal preference, the members of the commission should not be members of the general board. They should be qualified individuals from each Episcopal district who are elected. And I think that we need to see if that bill is there. If not, I think we need to have some friendly amendments to some existing bills. But that's a separate discussion. And I'd be happy to entertain that one at another point, but I don't want to abuse my time today.
Okay. Well, you raised a good point, Bishop. We have created 2 breakout discussion rooms. So if you would like to discuss any bill further, you can coordinate in the chat to go to discussion room 1 or 2 and handle all of those businesses at your leisure. All right. So we will now launch our poll. It's a simple question. Do you support this proposed bill? Yes or no? Or under consideration?
Yes.
All right, we got 10 more seconds. We thank you all for voting. So far, out of 101 people, 79 are in agreement that they support this bill. No one is saying no, and 22% are under consideration. So if this is a good, well, y'all know the word I'm saying. Then Bishop, you may have some luck. All right, good indication, excuse me.
Thank you, Bishop Lee, for participating today. You've been very helpful to the church, I'm sure. We will move on to the next bill, Annuity, Investment, Participation, and Protection. Sister Kimberly Gordon Brooks. Sister Brooks.
Give them a second. We have to send a request to unmute and then they must accept it.
All right. Sister Williams, do we have a count of how many people are participating at this moment?
Currently, we have 135.
Mm-hmm. I do note that I'm getting some messages. Some folks will have some difficulty entering, or it was taking them a little bit longer. How many did we have registered for this event?
350.
Thank you. Thank you.
We've sent Ms. Brooks the request to unmute. As soon as she responds, we'll go forward.
And for those of you who are following along, you can find Sister Brooks's proposed bill in the packet on page 77.
Which is indicated by PP 77. Okay. All right, I think Miss Kim is connected. Miss Brooks, whenever you're ready, you may start.
She's trying to speak to us, looks like, but
Hello, can you hear me?
now we hear you, Sister Brooks.
Finally. Yeah, I've been trying. I was sending you text message, Mark. I apologize for that.
Got a little delay in my phone. All right, welcome, welcome. You can begin to tell us about the bill.
So once again, to follow Bishop Leaf's, I think it's pretty self-explanatory as to why we need this piece of legislation. We find ourselves in a very critical and crucial time within our denomination for many various reasons, but particularly as it pertains to finances. So if you have the bill up in front.
We do.
Okay. Are there any questions about the bill? So the intent is to assure participants inclusion in any selection of a new third-party investment administrator for the annuity program. The rationale is there. I don't want to insult your intelligence by reading it all, but the West Path relationship is a major part of the solution for a secure future for retirement investments. Yet there are official entities which could move funds without the clear knowledge and consent of program participants. I was kind of baffled when I heard that because I am a city employee, but I get government benefits. So I'm like in the, what we call PERS here in Ohio. So it's like the teacher's retirement. And whenever changes or updates are done, I am notified. And so I don't know why pastors weren't.
Well, thank you. We'll now I will ask you the same question. Has this bill been shared or vetted? If so, please share with the audience with whom.
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say that the bishops probably reviewed the bill.
What kind of feedback have you had from the bill? Positive or opposing?
Mixed.
Mm-hmm. And since the General Board and its commissions has oversight of retirement services, are you aware of their response to your bill?
No, I am not.
All right, we will now move on to the chat. Sister Williams.
Yes. So I have one comment, Bishop Lee. So Reverend Wade's bill does not refer to the choice of administrator.
Can you repeat that, Sister Williams?
Sure. So Reverend Wade's bill does not refer to the choice of administrator. Maybe he was responding to someone in the chat. because he also mentioned that Pastor Wade's bill is very similar. One difference is the threshold of approval. It will be helpful if Reverend Wade can comment on his bill 70% versus a majority vote.
Reverend Wade will be on a little bit later. He can make a comment.
Okay. All right. Well, no other questions for Ms. Brooks.
Are there no other questions prior in the chat to, I thought I glimpsed something, prior to Bishop Lee's? Nope.
Nope. Mr. Allen asked if there was a record of registration by district.
Okay. That's good.
And that was it.
For the pastors, for the participants of this, for
Yeah, I
West
believe
Path?
he was, yes, ma'am. I think he's referring to who's participating in the event. Yeah, this meeting, yeah. I know who
I'm
that is.
sorry.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, because each Episcopal district has 3 or 4 key people that had to get all the ministers, the pastors, information and put it into the system for West Path. And I was part of that group for the 3rd Episcopal district.
Thank you. All right, well, thank you, Sister Brooks, for participating today.
One more question just came
Sure.
in. Theodore Thompson, were any investment choices considered, such as Fidelity or others? Can you speak to that, Ms. Kim? Or
not to my knowledge. I don't think. I chuckled. I'm sorry. I don't think the clergy had any knowledge of
Sister Brooks,
of how things were being invested. Yes.
We're gonna stick to the questions that are related to your bill.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That might have stepped out a bit.
All right.
Again, thank you so very much for participating today. Hopefully we've enlightened some folks on this bill. We will now move on to our poll.
Yes.
And our poll again says whether or not you're in favor of this bill or not, or that you are undecided pending additional details.
All right. So about 77% of participants who say that 36% are in agreement, they support the bill, 4% say no, and 60% are currently undecided.
Great. Thank you for that. Let's entertain, let me see, what time is it? We're beyond our time now. Thank you. Let's move on to our next bill. Let's get our next guest, Reverend Leota Strong. He's going to speak to retirement services revisions. Have we located him in the chat? We might come back to him.
Leotis. No. Don't see a Leotis.
All right, let's get Mr. Wade ready. We're going to move on. We'll try to reach out to Mr. Strong, Reverend Strong. Our next bill, Annuity Fund and Insurance Stability 2.
This isn't it, is it? Whoa. Oh, sorry.
While Sister Williams find that, Reverend Wade is coming into the chat.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
If I can see unfortunately, I don't have the bill before me, but if you would put it up on screen, it would be helpful. But the key issue with this bill is to ensure that 70% of the participants would have the opportunity to weigh in on any one of the selections that are made for the persons handling the company handling the new annuity fund, versus it being strictly left to the commission. I think participants should have a voice in where the money is being handled.
Is it?
Okay. Anything else you would like to share with the bill? And
Yeah, this was actually vetted in the Second Episcopal District, and it wasn't unanimous, but we had a high percentage of the people that agreed with the bill in the Second Episcopal District at the mid-year meeting.
thank you. I do see where they are notated as authors, so thank you for that. What kind of feedback have you had from the bill, positive or opposing? I think you addressed that a little bit, but if you could share that, please.
I probably talked to maybe 100 or 200 people about this bill, and it's been positive with those people that I've talked to.
And since the General Board and its commissions has oversight of retirement services, are you aware of their response to your bill? Please share.
No, I'm not.
All right, thank you, sir. We now will move to questions from the chat. Sister Williams?
None right now. Let's see. Okay.
I think I see one from Mr. Turner.
He would like to respond. It might have been to the last bill, but he would like to
Okay.
respond because he is on the commission.
Okay. We'll come back to that one. Any other questions related to this
And
bill?
Jennifer Leaf would like to speak as well. Is there a consideration of another change from West Path in the future that came through? And then this bill refers to a single investment decision like our current Symetra relationship. No, none at this time. The poll.
All right, now we'll move on to the poll. Are you in favor of this bill at this point or not? Undecided, pending additional details.
And our results. We have 72% is under consideration, 24% are saying yes, and 5% are saying no currently. And that is our poll.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Reverend Wade, for participating in our legislation review today.
We do have one question from Ms. Valeria Swope. Do local elders currently receive annuity? And if not, how will it affect the annuity going forward? And please allow more time for questions. My question on the bill being discussed did not get asked. Absolutely, no problem. Reverend Wade, would you like to answer this question?
Do local elders currently receive annuity? And if, yeah, pastors do receive annuities that are paid by the local church, or if they decide to contribute on their own.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. We're going to, if that's all in the chat. Did we find Reverend Strong? All right, we're going to get ready for the next bill, please. The CLO 4, Local Ministry Annuity, Insurance Program Participation. From the Connectional Lay Organization, that's Ruben Brazil will represent this bill.
Thank you, Brother Chair. And this is the bill that she was referring to, the local ministers annuity program. Currently, local ministers are not able to participate in the program. However, let me just make this very, very simple. This bill basically just says that since there are so many local ministers that are covering churches around the connection, because we just don't have enough deacons and elders to cover them, then what this is saying is that any local minister who is currently supply pastoring and has been doing so for at least 2 years with the expectation that they're going to continue to pastor these churches will be able to participate in the retirement program, so that at the end of the day, when it's all over, they'll at least have something. Because most of the time, these are people who are ministers who have rural churches or small churches, and they end up putting a lot more into it financially than what they get out of it. And so we're just trying to make sure that they are able to participate in the retirement program when it's all said and done. And this was something that came from the clergy to the lay to help them get this passed. And so that's what this bill is basically talking about. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I'll ask you the same questions. Has this bill been shared or vetted? If so, please share with the audience with whom.
This particular bill was vetted by the Connectional Lay Organization. It was passed at the last biennial session in Chicago. It was also taken to the convo and was vetted. In addition, we talked to Senior Bishop Richardson and Dr. Miller, who is over retirement services, and he told us that he was in agreement with this as well. And so it's just a good way to include all clergy in the participation of this particular bill.
What kind of feedback have you had from the bill?
Or the program.
Positive or opposing?
Nearly everything has been positive. Very little opposing. Most of that has just been people not understanding how the overall program works. And that's it. Not even understanding that even laity can participate in the program if they are employees of the church that work at least 20 hours, 20 paid hours in the church, then they can also participate. So this is just something that just allows the people who do the work of the church to participate in the retirement program of the church.
And since the General Board and its commissions has oversight over retirement services, are you aware of their response to your bill? Please share.
We are not aware of the overwhelming thought of the General Board on this. However, many General Board members have voted on this bill in the affirmative at both the convo and the biennial. and have given us positive feedback towards it. So for the most part, even bishops. So for the most part, this has been green lighted by most everybody who is in authority.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
We'll move on to the poll now. Sister Williams. Again, whether you are in favor of this bill or not, or whether you are undecided, pending additional details.
All right. So at 74% of respondents, 82 people said yes, they support this bill. 5 people said no, and 25 people are still considering this bill.
Thank you. Thank you.
We do have some comments from the chat. Brother Jerry Turner has asked to speak because he has pertinent information and he has been sent the request to unmute himself. Go ahead, Brother Turner.
Thank you so very much. President McKeedy, Chairman Johnson, any of the bishops of the church that are on the call. I do want to give some clarity. I did come on late. However, in regards to how West Path was chosen, it was a RFP process. So I think everybody just needs to know that. It was an RFP process that was done within the commission. It was vetted through one of the committees of the commission, brought to the commission for approval, and then it went to the General Board, Council of Bishops for approval. There were several companies that wanted the business. So it was not unilaterally chosen by the director. It went through a lot of refinement. Even the RFP took us some time to even develop and make sure it was good to be sent out. So that's how West Path was chosen. And I do see a question, why was this not shared by the participants? That would be a question certainly for the executive director, but the request for proposal. So that's what it is, an RFP. So that's how the information, that's how West Path came into operation. We knew that we could not use what we were using currently. So we had to go to a new company. Secondly, in regards to a lot of these proposals that have been produced, of course, by members of the AME churches, any member of the AME church can write legislation. The commission was not privy to all of these pieces until it was released by the general secretary. The commission has written several pieces of legislation to try to move the commission into better oversight. As we know, all of this was due to lack of oversight. So the commission over the past 3 years, and where I am serving as a member of the commission on the general board, we have at times been meeting weekly, bi-weekly, Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m., some of us working jobs, trying to make sure that this piece would not happen again. So a lot of work has been put into developing a new plan. It is certainly not perfect, and we know that we need to make some additional updates and modifications. Just as Sister Brooks works for government, I work for state government. And I think we are trying to move into in a way in which the participants would have more say in what needs to be done. In WestPath, they do offer investment choices for persons who are members or who have money in those particular accounts. So you can make changes if you're a pastor or a salary servant of the church with 20 hours or more. You can make, you can do some self-direction. So I just wanted to give that. I just wanted to give that update because I don't want people to leave out thinking something totally different. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Brother Turner. If we have some time for general questions or general for retirement, we will do that a little bit later in the chat. But thank you very much. And we do recognize that he is a commission member, and we appreciate that, sir. We're going to move on now. I think we had another question in the chat.
Yes.
You see
so
it?
if there are, Mr. Brazil, if there are extended periods when the local or itinerant clergy are not in active ministry, how will maintenance fees be paid?
So what that, once they are eligible and are in the program participating, if they go inactive, they are still allowed to submit funds directly through the program from their own personal accounts. So it doesn't just have to go through the church. They can also send money themselves directly into the program.
And then lastly, why are participants not allowed to submit funds directly versus through the Episcopal district?
Well, like we just said, they are allowed to, if they want to send in additional monies, they can. There's just so much that the church is going to send in based on what the requirements are, but then they can also always send money into the program. And I saw another question, I believe it was from Jennifer Leith, about the language, expectation versus likelihood, probability. We were just doing the best we could based on what we had, and we were in consultations with the episcopacy, because usually it's an expectation that they're going to continue to pastor, but it's not always a likelihood. We don't know that. We just use that language based on the conversations we were having at the time.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we are ready now for the next bill.
Do we have our guests queued up?
Requests have been sent. We're just waiting for them to
Right. I'll
accept.
go ahead and introduce it. I think they're very close by. The next bill, Ministerial Retirement Investment Portfolio for required and eligible clergy participants outside of the United States. Our guest is Reverend Kenesha Blake Newell and Sister Reverend Jennifer Leith.
Thank you so much. Reverend Blake Newell?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Thank you to President McKeithy and to Brother Mark and Sister Jamisha. Thank you so much. And I'm going to turn things over, Reverend Kenesha Blake Newell. Go right ahead.
Okay, so the intent of this bill is really to facilitate and codify the retirement investment portfolio development for AME clergy serving and residing outside of the United States. The rationale for this is, and I'll just read this, while essential reforms and improvements have been made to the retirement investment portfolio management of the AME Church within the past year, these reforms and improvements have limited or no value and benefit for required and qualified participants living outside of the United States. Just to give an highlight of what are some of the difficulties with that. So, for example, for WestPath, for those outside of the United States, we need a United States address to access our accounts. And there are other things as it relates to taxation, being double taxed by the United States government and for Canada, the Canadian government. And so those are some of the limitations. How it impacts the church, looking at promoting global equity. If you look at the amendments, just to see if I can. Okay, so there are several wording that has been adjusted based on recommendation from the Department of Retirement Services. So for example, change to ministerial retirement investment portfolio. As it relates to the change, the 12% in the discipline, there is an amount figure there that is in US. And so what I think what we have done is to give it a percentage, 6%. So not to reread it, but if you go through the amended text, you will see where, right, so the established contribution amount for each annual participant shall be 12% of the annual salary. And so the amendment where we took out the figure, which was 5,000 and something and 300 and so, which are US dollars, which would be, when you think about countries outside of the United States, it is currently somewhat at a disadvantage to us. And so it's changed the minimum contribution amount shall be 6%. So it's basically in terms of getting a representative from the district. And so the intent is that this will still go through the Department of Retirement Service, but in order to be fair and equitable in terms of the retirement annuity, which currently serve at a greater disadvantage for those outside of the United States. And I'll turn it over to Reverend Leith.
And I can answer the questions as they come from the organizers here.
Okay, I will start with our additional questions. Has this bill been shared or vetted? If so, please share with us the audience with whom you shared it.
This bill has been vetted with the 4th District Legislative Committee, as well as the Canadian Conference, and with Dr. Miller as well. And comes with his knowledge and endorsement.
Yes. We have noted he is a part of one of the office we noted. Yes, Reverend Miller.
Okay, God bless you today. And of course, my regards and salutations to President McKeety and to those bishops that may be online, and to Brother Brazil, did an excellent job, and Brother Johnson. Let me say that our initial foray into international coverage of the pension is already in place, because you have to have a United States Social Security number. And if you have a Social Security number, then we can work with that. And we have many persons in Bermuda, that would be the 1st district, and then the Bahamas, that would be the 11th district, and then the 16th district. When we get into countries that are beyond that, then we're dealing with local governments, because they have distinct rules of money management. And we are prepared to go into a foray. We've talked to a couple of districts that are in the African continent. So I'm thankful that Reverend Lee and Reverend Newell have proposed this bill. We'd like to have some authorization to move forward with our thoughts.
Again, we thank you, General Officer Miller, for joining us today. I will continue with the questions from the panel. What kind of feedback have you had from the bill, positive or opposing?
Feedback has been positive, and there have been some suggestions with respect to language around conferences, and also around the language of portfolio. And so we'll take those under advisement, but overall positive.
Thank you for notating that. Since the General Board and its commissions has oversight of retirement services, are you aware of their response?
No, but commission members and leadership are aware, as you can hear, and they're aware of the concern and also of the need, and are supportive of the intent and rationale.
Yeah, and they have an opportunity to contact you in the interim. So great.
Yes.
All right. We'll now move on to the questions in the chat.
Okay. Michael Cousin asks, does the commission even know about some of these bills? I don't know. I can't answer that for you, Michael Cousin.
I know that that question is broader than the bill that we're talking about right now, but with respect to this bill, for instance, I know that there are members of the commission who are on right now who are not encountering this issue and concern about this for the first time. So I don't know if there's a formal process by which that's happening, and perhaps that's something to address, but at least with respect to this bill, I know that there has been informal conversation with members of the commission.
Okay. And I think this next question is probably broad and overall, but I will also ask that Ms. Valeria Swoop asks, can the monitoring of financials be applied to all departments of the AME Church? I'm sure we all have that question, Ms. Valeria. That's all for you all, Reverend Lee and Reverend Blake Newell.
Reverend Miller, yeah.
And Reverend Miller. We're ready to launch our poll.
All right. Are you in favor, opposing, or still considering?
All right, so ending the poll, we have 55% who are in support of this bill, or excuse me, 50% who are in support of this bill, 3% say no, and 48% are under consideration.
Great, 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 great. All right, we will move on. Ideally, we would like to move on to the bill that we were not able to talk about earlier, which is the retirement services revisions. That bill was submitted by Bishop White and Bishop Zanders on behalf of the Commission on Retirement Services. Our invited guest was Leota Strong, and he's unable to get on at this moment. I will admit that he did agree to come on at the very, very last minute for us. A little bit under the weather, and now he's trying to get through, but we're having a little technical difficulties. I believe that's a big deal of a bill. That's a big deal. If we don't get to that today, I know we have some commission persons here today, but I think we will save this bill and we will bring it back. We actually moved pretty smoothly today. It's 5 o'clock. We're 1 hour into it. Sister Jameisha, can you tell us again how many people are participating today at this moment?
Right now we have 163. And there is one more question, maybe Reverend Leaf can answer. Is, does the 12% apply to bishops and elders? Michael Cuzza says yes.
Yes, it does. It does, but it's the way that it's worded and often interpreted leaves it usually as a an obligation on pastors. But yes.
Thank you.
I would, yeah. But there may be a bishop who might want to speak to that and could do so more directly, and with more clarity about the interpretation of that.
Bishops, if you'd like to respond, indicate so in the chat and we will send you a request. Brother Jerry Turner said bishops are in a separate plan. No takers yet, Reverend Keith. Okay, one other question. Why would the 12% apply to bishops when they already have a different plan? Okay, Brother Harris, thank you. We've established that.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
This, and I think it should be noted that this bill is not removing previous language for the most part, and it's not changing what has been the practice before this point. And so the 12% and 6% are percentage points that were there beforehand. That's nothing new. It just takes the US dollar amount out of that equation, because there are different individual there are people operating on different currency who are in need of this investment service. And so
we can't hear you, Reverend Lee. If you were done. You're still unmuted.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know what happened, but
no, that was me.
Reverend Miller, yeah, you're unmuted, Reverend Lee. But Reverend Miller had his hand up and would have liked to made a comment. Go ahead, Reverend Miller.
Well, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me say that those disciplinary guidelines are what they are, guidelines. You have many churches that cannot pay the 12% for their pastor, and they pay some percentage less than that, all the way down to many of them paying the minimum. Okay. And so there's no rigid on the payment guideline. Some pastors, if they have good church, they may get 8 or 10%, or they may look at the law and pay 12%. But others, it may pay the minimum because the church is trying to keep the lights on. So those, what we're talking about here primarily, and if you wanted to really know, I can't help but tell it, you don't have a third of the pastors probably are paying close to 12%, but over half of them may be paying the minimum, which is $12.50. So don't get so much caught up in these percentages, because in the reality of the ability of the church, and the bishops are all the same, the general officers are all the same. We're all in the program. We all lost the same amount in the event that occurred, and we all participate to the extent of however much we want to put in. And we're thankful that as the servants of the church, not only pastors, but elders and general officers and bishops get something paid into their account. but everybody may not be up to 12%. So I just want you to know, don't get too much caught up in your percentages as much as you are making sure there is some type of mandate for that group to have some retirement support. Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you for adding that clarification.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Reverend Miller. This concludes our specific bills. We are now going to move into our comment area.
We do, you muted yourself, Mark, but Sister Brooks has her hand up. You're recognized, Sister Brooks.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Yes, good. I had switched computers. So on my bill, the important part of that is that the retirement services or any other entity which the authority to choose a third-party administrator shall not change the third-party administrator without participant agreement. So it empowers the clergy to have input on what's going on with their money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Sister Brooks, for that clarification. Brother Harris, James Harris asks, is it legal for an employee to have 2 retirement plans? And then we will go and recognize Michael Cousin, who has his hand up.
Reverend Miller, can you address that, please?
Is it legal for an employee to have 2 retirement plans?
Well, yes, it is, because many people stay in the military or a job for 20 years. They get out and then they get another job for 20 years and they have 2 pensions plus security and what they saved in the equity in their house when they retire. I think that you might want to know if they could do it at the same time, because you work in 2 jobs simultaneously. But we haven't had any challenges in that sense, because we have many pastors who are bivocational. So I would say the answer would be yes.
All right, thank you for answering that question. Michael Cousin, we have sent you a notice to unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you to everyone assembled. Good afternoon. I just want to reiterate the fact that the 12% investment is law, and there are actually annual conferences within our Zion that are referring their ministers to Ministerial Efficiency Committee for failure to pay that, and they're actually holding back appointments. So I do want to reiterate that it is the law and not simply a guideline, and that we have to be very careful about the information that we spread. And also acknowledging the fact that we do have commission members, a part of the general board, who work with retirement services week after week that can give informed responses to some of these questions.
Thank you, Brother Cousin, for adding that insight. Reverend Blake Knoll.
Oh, I just wanted to add that the bill that is being proposed for countries or conferences outside, outside of the United States, does not eliminate the oversight for the Department of Retirement Services. It doesn't. What it does is to, as best as possible, allow for equity and fairness in terms of what pastors who have been serving are able to benefit from an annuity plan that will not see them at a disadvantage. It doesn't change that it will be 12% of what you're paying, or 12% of your salary. It doesn't change the 6%. What it does do is to remove the US dollars, which, and I think that was what Reverend Leet was trying to say. It removes the US dollars because whatever funds is paid outside has to be paid in US dollars, then there is currency exchange. So it means that 12% for those in US will sometimes work out to be up to 20% for those outside of the United States. And so those are the nuances around the annuity. So it doesn't eliminate the oversight. It doesn't prevent there is accountability. That's the intent of it. It doesn't eliminate the 12%. What it does is remove the language or the dollar amount that is in US, realizing that there are districts or conferences, for example, Canada, which is a part of the 4th Episcopal District, that our currency is not US, it's in Canadian. And so that means then that 12% for us is not 12% when it's converted to the United States amount. It sometimes goes up to 18%. And so in all fairness and equity, that's intent behind it.
Thank you, Reverend Blake Noel. Okay, so we have a broad question from William Baker, who says that might not be able to be answered. Thank you for that insight, sir. But does the AME Church ensure that funds are being ethically invested by the fund manager? Maybe a better question. Or what do you think, Brother Mark? I don't know if I can't answer it, sir, but we'll see what we can do.
We can defer that to the retirement officer, I believe.
All right.
If he's would like to answer that.
I can't get on. Oh, okay. I got it.
Go ahead, Reverend Miller.
I can only report that last year, the average was between 7.2 and 8% paid on our accounts for our plan participants. And of course, they have to make their own determination as to, but I'm thankful because from 1.5, which we were locked into for 20 years or more, sometimes we got 2.5, but to be locked in like that and then go to 4 or 5 times of what we were getting, I'm very happy with West Path. So, but that all we can report is what we earned, and the participants have to make their own decision. It was between 7.2 and 8% for 2023.
Okay. Thank you for that answer, sir. All right. Does anyone else have any comments that are for the good of the body? Could that be facts regarding the percentage for clergy? I'm glad you all are utilizing the chat. You're following instructions. I'm so proud of you. Good job. And you're conversing, having great insight here. All right. Does anyone else have a question? We'll provide our instructions for next week. Please do know that this recording will be shared on the CLO website. And I definitely want to acknowledge the presence of President McKeety, as well as Dola Wright. And I believe I saw Dr. Henderson, our first vice president. President McKeety, would you like to share a word with us? I know it's late for you. So, but if you're willing, you've been sent a request to speak.
What's your question, Madam Young Adult Representative?
Oh, this is your opportunity just to share your wisdom, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. I think I appreciate the discussions that are going on here today. People are learning more about the church. And what fascinates me and what makes me very happy is that the people that are running this thing in front of us are 2 young people. Oh, but from the 7th Episcopal District. Thank you very much for the work that you are doing, and we really appreciate the contributions of everybody, across the board, from the lay people to the clergy, to the bishops, to the general officers. We really appreciate it. And let us continue to do the things that we are doing. Thank you, the committee, for doing what you are doing. The church is going to be a better place after this.
Thank you, President McKeedy. And you do know that this session was conceptualized for young adults, but our CLO legislation chair said, invite everybody. And I said, okay, I'll get it. So we opened it up to all delegates and alternates. And so we hope that it has been helpful. Do note that you will use the same Zoom for the next 2 Sundays. No further registration is required. You can share with others that if they would like to attend, they can simply use the meeting ID and passcode that was on the flyer. Let's see, do we have any other requests in the chat? Oh, you're welcome, Sister Kajita. Oh, you're all welcome. Okay, well, that is all for now. We do again appreciate your time. We thank all commission chairs who were or members who were here, and we appreciate your comments. Some didn't need to be read out loud, but do know that they were noted. And we thank you for joining tonight. Can the comments be shared for further discussion? Sure. They got a little heated when I wasn't acknowledging certain comments, but yes, they can be shared. You're absolutely welcome to all who said thank you. And we will see you next Sunday, where we will talk about local church administration, connectional church administration, as well as clergy and ministry affairs. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to me at yar@ameclay.org, and we'll have those prepared ahead of time. Do note, continue to bring your packet, bring your discipline for reference, and if nothing else, Brother Mark, we can conclude this session for tonight.
Right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you. God bless you. Job well done.